Hey there, you're listening to Becoming More Me, the podcast for busy-minded entrepreneurs who want to be more and do less. You know I love talking about confidence, but not the performative kind that looks good on Instagram and falls apart the second life gets messy, right? I'm talking about the kind of confidence that lives in your bones, the kind that is still there when you're tired, when you've made mistakes, when you're stretching into a bigger version of you and you're up against the edges of your comfort zone and your nervous system is thinking, oh, excuse me, what are we doing? So many of the women that I work with are wildly capable and still walking around with this quiet, constant hum of self-doubt. They're leading teams, they're raising kids, building amazing businesses, doing all the things, and yet the inner dialogue sounds more like, who am I to do this? Or I should be further along by now. If that's you, you are so not alone. And today's conversation is going to feel like a breath of fresh air. My guest today has lived through her own version of the gap between how life looks on the outside and how it feels on the inside. She's a mom of 6. She's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. She's written about the extraordinary, unordinary parts of life. And out of all of that, she has created a grounded human framework for building what she calls real confidence. From the inside out, not from the approval in. We're going to talk about why confidence is something you practice rather than something you're magically born with, how one tiny word, like just, can drain your power, what it really takes to set boundaries when drowning in guilt, and how to keep showing up for your life even when you feel anything but unshakable. So if you've ever looked at your life on paper and thought, I should feel better than this, I should feel more solid in myself by now, this episode is for you. Take a breath, grab one of your favorite drinks, or 3 of them if you're like me. Let this be a loving recalibration for your nervous system and your sense of confidence and self-worth. Let's dive in to building real confidence with my guest today, Simone Knego. It all starts now. Welcome, Simone. I'm so glad you're here today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So we're going to talk a lot about confidence today. I know that is your jam, and I'd love to hear how you came to be so excited about confidence and helping people with it.
So I am someone that struggled for the majority of my life with self-doubt and never felt like I was good enough, pretty enough, whatever the enoughs were. Like that was that was my thought process. And I had a big transformational moment in 2015 when I was 42 years old that really helped me change the way that I saw myself. And we could talk about that moment, but that was really what helped me create what I call the real method. And because what I did was I looked back at my transformation. And as I looked back at it, I was like, okay, how can I help other women get there quicker than I did? Yeah. So, and that's what this is all about, is helping other women. That's why I do the podcast with my daughter, Olivia, helping other women get there quicker than I did in terms of building confidence.
That's awesome. And you have a great podcast. I know I was just on it. You guys can listen to that episode too. And you and your daughter make such a great duo on Her Unshakable Confidence podcast. So what was that moment? Tell me more about the moment that maybe, life on the outside didn't match how you felt on the inside, or what was going on there that was so big for you.
Yeah, I mean, the transformation happened because I was asked to do something completely out of my comfort zone. I was asked to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm not a climber. I live in Florida. We live at sea level. I have 16 steps in my house. Like, climbing is not something that I've ever really thought about. It wasn't a bucket list item. But a friend of ours had climbed it the year before. He asked my husband if he was interested, and my husband basically counted to 3 and said, "No, thank you. Call Simone." And so he did. And I said yes. And when I look back, people are like, why would you say yes to that? And at first I was like, I don't know, but I did. But really 2 reasons. One, when I was younger, I was the people pleaser. I called myself the yes girl. Didn't matter that I had 6 kids. I still helped everybody. It was like, can you pick up my kids from school? Can you do this for me? I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to say no. I didn't want to make anybody feel bad. So part of it was when our friend asked me to do it, I was like, yes, yes, I'll do it. You're raising money for the Live Strong Foundation. Yes, I'll do it. Like, I don't want to disappoint anybody. But the other part of saying yes was that I knew I really needed to get out of my comfort zone, right? That I
Yeah.
started to have that awareness that I just feel bad about myself, and that's not the life I want to be living. So why
What
not
year
shake
was
it
this?
up?
Was this in 2015 that
Yeah, it was in
this ask was?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And so,
What's
well, the ask, I guess, was in 2014 and it happened in 2015.
yeah, what does training for a climb like that entail?
So I only had 6 months to train, but basically I worked out every single day. I got on the treadmill, full, by the end, full incline, baby steps at first. We have one hill in Sarasota. So I would do that with my pack, my boots, and then I used to wear, it's called an elevation training mask. It had a gorilla face on it, but, it like wraps around your head and you have these little valves that you can adjust so that not that it mimics anything that happens with the oxygen, but it helps you with lung capacity so that you're basically by the end you're breathing through a straw.
Oh, wow.
And so I would wear that while I was working out as well. Like it was really effective.
That's so cool. I've never thought
And
about what goes into that. So
yeah,
my
it
ADHD brain is fascinated whenever I get to learn new things.
yeah. And one of the biggest parts for me was really the the mental fitness for it
Sure.
because as someone who would constantly criticize myself, whether I was thinking those thoughts or saying them out loud, I really had to, get rid of that noise and say, you're doing this, right? You're putting in the work, you're doing this, like you're capable of doing this. Like it's not that, oh, everybody else can do it and you can't. You're doing this. So that was a big part of my preparation was to really make sure that I was all in both physically and mentally.
Yeah, and it definitely reinforces what I think you believe, which is that confidence is built and not born, as you were there building it.
Yeah, I mean 100%. And I didn't think about it at that time as I was building confidence. I thought that I'm building myself up to make it up the mountain.
Sure.
And then when I did that, then I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what happened." Like I
Yeah.
stopped judging myself. Trust me, I criticized myself all the way up the mountain. I mean, that voice was still there.
Yeah.
Why are you here? You have 6 kids at home. You're not a climber. You're 42 years old. You shouldn't be doing this. All the things. But I realized that I could respond, right? One more step. You've got this.
Mhm.
And so that was like a big shift for me of understanding that I am capable of whatever I want to do as long as I put in the work and I have to want it. And so
Yeah.
from that whole experience is how I created my real method. And, it's been transformational for me and for other women to really help them change the way they see themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And at some point, you have to realize that life is the mountain, right?
Yes.
That's,
Yeah.
I think, the bigger lesson there. So I definitely want to talk more about the real method, but before we do, I mean, just as far as like where you came from in all of this, because you were a CPA, what probably feels like a lifetime ago, right? and, and then you ended up as an international speaker and a best-selling author and a podcast host, and those are not like little pivots, right? So what were some of the identity shifts that you had to go through to let yourself become this version,
Mm,
especially as a admitted people pleaser and yes
yeah.
girl?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of shifts that had to happen. Just that the first piece of understanding that I deserve to be in the room. Like, we always think like, oh, that imposter syndrome, that it's meant for everybody else and not for us, or we don't actually really deserve to be here. They've made a mistake. Okay, that's not true. That is not true. That is the story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was one of the biggest shifts, but also that I didn't have to worry about what anybody else was thinking, right? Why am I comparing myself to others? Why do I care what they're doing? If I'm comparing myself to them, they have no idea it's happening, right? So the only person it's affecting and affecting negatively is myself. So I think that's a really good reminder of that it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. But for me, for a long time, that was the case. And I think for a lot of people today, especially with social media, that is the case. They look at everybody else's life and think, oh, they have the perfect life, or, they're looking at the shiny moments. And so I would say those are a few of the biggest shifts. I mean, there were so many shifts that happened for me after that experience.
Oh yeah. I mean, gosh, just being a mom of six, there's a lot of not shiny moments. Like
No.
there's a lot of stuff that we don't want on social media and don't really shed a light on. But if you're looking over like all of these big life chapters that you've been through and thinking about this whole like real method that you've developed for confidence, where do you see the roots of that starting from? Like even before you had the language for it?
So when I was in high school, I had a boyfriend for 3 years that was abusive, and I stayed for 3 years. And so my journey with self doubt really started at that point. I truly believe each of us has something that happened, whether it's a teacher that told us that, we're not a good writer or whatever. All maybe those little, we've talked about the little T traumas that
Mm-hmm.
really kind of affect us moving forward. And I didn't deal with it. So I basically said, it's over with, it's done. I stuffed it down. My husband knew about it, my kids knew about it, but I didn't talk about it with anybody because, my parents are of the generation, what will people think? That's
Yeah.
shameful, right? And so I didn't. I just didn't really talk about it. And so that Kilimanjaro moment, although it sounds cliche, it was so transformational for me because I went from someone who, first of all, was hiding behind a facade for years, pretending that everything was okay, pretending that I was super strong, to really understanding that I need to feel my emotions. I need to be able to express myself, and I need to be real.
I love
Who
that.
who wants a fake version of me, you know? I mean, if you don't like me as I am, then that's okay, but I shouldn't have
Sure.
to fake it for other people to want to be with me. And I have actually found it to be the opposite, that the more you're able to talk about what you struggle with, or, celebrating all the moments, the hard parts and the really exciting parts, that's where you make the connection instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm only going to show you that I am perfect at this. Okay, there's no such thing as perfection. Like, but that's what I did for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. And if everybody likes you, then you're usually not a very authentic version of yourself. It's really hard to pull off. So let's talk about this real method that you've come up with. Can you tell us what the letters stand for? Because it's an acronym, right? I love
Yes.
acronyms.
Yeah. Yeah. So it stands for respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits.
Okay.
And the respect piece was so important to me. Like that, I believe, is foundational to confidence. That, I remember as a child being taught to respect my elders, my peers, but never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is yourself,
Mm,
right? I mean, respect starts with you. Like so often we say, oh, we're going to demand respect. We're going into this meeting and we're going to demand respect. Well, no, demonstrate it to yourself so people
yeah.
understand how you want to be treated, the only way you will be treated, instead of going there and being like, oh, you have to do this. It doesn't work that
Yeah.
way,
And for, in our age group, it was more of a be seen and not heard
Mm,
kind of a environment to grow up in. Even if, you had parents that weren't that way, the environment in general had a bit of that going on for our generation. And that makes it difficult too.
yeah. I mean, I would never disagree with a teacher, right? I mean,
Right.
that was who I was supposed to respect. I would
Yeah.
never be rude to a teacher, but I would be rude to myself all day long,
Yeah.
right?
Because it was like growing up in the idea of like, we don't matter as much.
No. Yeah. I mean, your value, definitely the way I felt my value had nothing to do with I didn't feel value, right?
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to value everybody else. I was supposed to think of everybody else basically as superior to me, and that's kind of how I moved through my life.
Right, because there's never really a time like if you're raised thinking that you don't matter as much as other people and that, your opinion shouldn't be heard or whatever else. There's not a time when you like reach 18 or 25 or whatever else that some switch goes on that you're like, "Oh, I matter now. So I'm just going to behave and show up totally differently."
Yeah. I mean, same thing with building confidence. It's not a switch. It's a practice. It's a skill that you build like any other skill. And,
Yeah.
I think that's a misconception so many people have is that you're born confident or you either have it or you don't. And it's so not true. It's like telling people that we were right before you, we had a guest on the podcast where he asked like, what's the capacity of humans in terms of learning a language? Like how many languages can you learn? 1,000. Can you imagine knowing 1,000 languages? But we limit ourselves, right? We
Yeah.
tell ourselves that we're not capable of all these different things. We are capable. So, yeah, the respect piece is so important. So, self-care, boundaries, how we talk to ourselves, the words that we use. We talk to ourselves in a way we would never talk to our best friend that way. We would never talk to our children that way. Like, we're going to live with ourselves until the day we die. We need to be our own best friend.
Yes.
And I think if we think about that a little bit differently, we realize, okay, that is ridiculous. Why would I be saying this to myself when I wouldn't say it to somebody else?
Yeah. So take me through the next letter, the A in real.
Actually, let's start with E, embrace your failures.
Sorry, I've,
Yeah.
I've skipped a letter.
You skipped a
Sorry,
letter.
yes, E. E is
Yeah.
next. Thank you for being on top of that.
So embrace your failures is I think it's such an interesting one to discuss because what society has told us is if you fail at something, you're a failure, right? Or, we don't celebrate failure. We only celebrate what we consider to be success. But I truly believe that failure is part of success. They're not mutually
Absolutely.
exclusive, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but so many people feel like if they failed at something, they can't move forward. I mean, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have really big failures,
I've
but
never
we
seen
have to be able
anybody
to get back
achieve
up.
anything that they're super proud of without having failures along the way. It seems like they go hand in hand for sure. Do you have any examples of like something that maybe just like really stung and felt like a horrible failure at one point that you were able to embrace and see in a different way through this lens?
Yeah. Well, I have lots of them, but I'll
How
talk
long is the
about,
show?
yeah, right. I'll talk about one that was a financial one. So there was a
Yeah.
period of time where I was flipping houses. And I've done many things in my life. I'm a big believer that it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
But I was flipping houses and we got caught in one of the real estate bubbles and the market tanked and we could not, there were two houses that we could not do anything with and the bank took them back. And it ruined our credit. Like it was a big fail. It ruined our credit. And, not just for me, but for my husband too, because he co signed on everything. And I felt like the biggest failure. Like we went to get a car and we couldn't get a loan on a car because I ruined the credit. And for a while, I took it really personally. And he was always supportive. He was like, Simone, it's a bump in the road. Like,
Yeah.
it'll get better. It'll get better. And obviously it did. Like we have great credit now, but it was that mindset of, okay, do things differently. So when something like that happens, do things differently. And, I didn't continue on with house flipping. I'll say that. And not because I felt like I was a failure, but because something else came my way. But in terms of we figured out a different way to buy a car. Like, there are always
Right.
other options, right? But yeah, that was a big moment for me where I felt like, oh my gosh, I've ruined everything. Like that was where my mind went to. And no, I didn't. Like there's other ways to do things and keep
Yeah.
moving forward.
It was able to shine a light on different paths and different possibilities.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Cool. So then now we actually are at A, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What's A all about?
Ask yourself what you want. I think this is one of the hardest things for women to do, right? Especially if you're a mom, or a caregiver in general, that you've
I'm
taken
allowed to
care
want things?
of.
Huh? Me?
Exactly. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? But so often we're doing everything for everybody else, and we don't ask ourselves the question, what do you want, right? I mean, you're allowed to have desires, right? You're allowed to have things in your life other than what you do for your family.
Yeah.
And it, but it's interesting when you ask women, I've had so many clients that I've worked with, it's like, so if we got rid of every restriction, every boundary today, everything that you struggle with, what would you want? I have no idea. I've never been asked that before.
Oh yeah. I see
So
that so much too. Like, and it's like, where do you go from there if you can't dial in on your own like purpose and what fulfills you?
yeah. But I always say, think back to when you were a little kid, right? Think back to what you said you were going to be. Like, I wanted to be an actress. That was my thing. And I went to school thinking I was pre-med. Both my parents were physicians. My sister's a physician. And I failed organic chemistry. And then I took a D, and then I took it again and got a D, right? So that's another failure story of I'm exactly where I am today because of those things happened, right? But, so often we look at that and say, okay, now what am I going to do, right? But it's taking that step back and saying, okay, yeah, when I was a kid, this is what I wanted to do. What am I good at now? What am I doing right now? So I'm not saying go quit your job tomorrow, but I'm saying that there are things that you can do within the scope of what you're already doing to really enjoy life, right? So if you wanted to be an actress, do community theater. I feel like a lot of what I do now, getting on stage and the podcast, like that is in the same realm for me. So I am very passionate about what I do.
Like your little inner child like lights up when you do those things. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's exactly what she wanted. I have a whole chapter in my book about that because for me as a little kid with my friends, we were always like writing books together. Like instead of playing with Barbies, we had our own library. We had like our little rubber stamp, we had late fees, we had all sorts of like
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Our own little library. And so I always wanted to do that. And then I realized when I like published my book, I was like, did it. Like I did the thing that like I wanted to do when I was like 5 to 10 years old, running that little library out of the basement in my house. And I also like loved writing music and songs and things. And I also wanted to be an actress. And I think about it like when I do my work now, like writing a hypnotherapy session is like writing lyrics, when I'm like helping somebody's subconscious like transform in that way. So yeah, those kind of things that like take you full circle to those moments that really lit you up as a kid can definitely like lead you down a path that's going to be fulfilling as an adult. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final part is L, which is live without limits. We limit ourselves from the second we wake up until the minute we go to bed, right? We tell ourselves that the not enoughs, right? We're not capable of this. We're not pretty enough. We're not smart enough. Whatever your not enough is. And what I used to do when I was younger was I would call myself, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just Rob's wife. I'm just a volunteer, justifying my existence. Drop the just, right? Like when you start listening for it, you will see how many people will, when they describe themselves, they'll put the word just in front of it. And the more negative things you say to yourself or about yourself, the more you believe them, right? Your thoughts become your reality.
Yes,
What you
indeed.
say about yourself becomes your reality. So why are we doing that, right? Do you really want to be just anything? No, you want to be proud of exactly who you are. So, like I said, drop the just.
I love that. That's amazing. I know that you've as a mom of 6 and some, from adoption, some biological, you've like how has that stretched your definition of confidence? Like what does confident parenting actually mean to you now versus like what you might have believed it should look like?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, there's nothing like being a parent to really knock you down and, make you think, okay, wow, I'm not good at anything, right? It worked with the last one. Why doesn't it work with this one? No, because it doesn't work that way. But it's really interesting because Olivia and I were talking on a podcast about the idea of parenting and like what has really worked for us. And because I feel like we have a very close family and the kids will call us whenever they're struggling with something or whatever's good. Like they're really, so I feel like we have, I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm like, okay, why do you think? And someone asked Olivia that on the podcast and she said, we always had a no judgment policy. So it didn't matter what was happening. It could be completely outrageous, but my parents would always say, how can we help? Instead of, I can't believe you did that. And I mean, we might have said that inside our heads, but
Have you joined the Becoming More Me community over on School yet? It is one of the fastest growing distraction-free platforms for learning and connection. And it's where the magic's happening for the Becoming More Me community as well. Inside, you will find a high vibe circle of heart-centered, ambitious entrepreneurs and professionals doing deep work to become who they truly feel called to be in life, in business, in love, health, and wealth, and doing it in ways that feel aligned, authentic, and full of pleasure. The community is packed with tons of valuable resources too that you can start using right away, as well as guidance to find the ones that are going to help you so that you don't need to waste time. We're talking tools, trainings, and practices to support your growth, all for free. Plus, you can find info on working with me more deeply, whether it's through one-on-one coaching, small group experiences, or the Becoming More Me with EFT program, as well as information on upcoming workshops and other events. To join, head over to school.com/discovery. That's SKOOL.com/discovery. Type in my name, Theresa, Lear, Levine, and you will find the Becoming More Me community right there. Click on it to join. I can't wait to welcome you to the community.
Like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. But, it was always like, how can we support you? And yes, I would call myself a fixer, but I wasn't the helicopter mom that, and again, I hate all the labels that we give moms, it's ridiculous. But I wanted to be there. So if they needed something, I wanted them to feel comfortable enough to come to me. I didn't have that when I was a kid, and I had great parents. It's not that I didn't, but it was just a different kind of relationship. So, it's really interesting so a confident parenting to me is really being able to be myself, letting my kids see the messy moments, being honest with them and saying, okay, this is what I did. You want to try it, go ahead, but this is how it ended for me. Like for me, with my parents, they would say, don't do that. We already did that. It was a disaster. And actually, my kids will say, I would never do that. That is so dumb, Mom. I was like, yeah, well, I did that. So, it's really, it's all about, for me, it's the modeling. We can tell our kids 100 times a day, you need to do this. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
You're not showing them, they're not going to learn it, right? I mean, how they take in information these days, like they're watching everything, right? They're watching everything on social media. They're watching everything that you do. And, for them, it's way more important than what you say. And I think that's been the biggest success for us. And that's, as a parent that I'm like, okay. And sometimes it's what not to do. I mean, I'm human. Like I have crazy moments. I was with my daughter one time in the Starbucks drive-through, and someone cut us off and I lost it. Like I was literally out of my mind in the Starbucks drive-through. And she was, I think, 13 at the time. And she looks over at me. This was our youngest daughter. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. And she's like, I went on with like, why, I can't believe they cut us off. Like, what's wrong with them? And she said, Mom, I think you might need to reread your own book. I think you've forgotten a few things about kindness and patience and empathy. Practice what you preach. And I was like, okay, that was an example of what not to do, right? Everything is always an example. So, but, I was able to come back and say, yeah, you are right. Like that was ridiculous. And then of course we get up to the window at the drive-through, and the person who cut us off paid for our drinks. So, it was like always a good reminder of, do we really need to react like that? No, but when we do, we can say, you know what? Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Or not I shouldn't have, but like, yeah, sometimes I'm human. Like I do things too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that they paid for your drinks too.
Yeah.
If that doesn't make you feel bad.
Yeah, it's like dagger. I was like, and then of course then she said, can we pay for the car behind us? So it was like really a great lesson overall because, there was so much learning involved, especially on my end. I was like, yeah, why did I just have that complete freak out for no reason?
Yeah, but it's like when you have that awareness, it makes such a difference. And especially with parenting, because, I probably have some similar stories like yours in my not so distant past arsenal of things. Could be a couple of weeks ago even, where things happen that like you're not super proud of, but when you're willing to be vulnerable and to talk about them with your kids when they're happening and after they're happening, as far as like, oh, this is what was going on and maybe I could have done it differently or whatever, but and have those conversations, it makes such a difference in the way that they think about their own situations too, because we're all human. There's not like a method, a modality, a practice that makes us impervious to life and agitation and
Yeah.
anger and all the emotions.
But I think also, when I talk about modeling, a big part of it is really how we treat ourselves
Yeah,
because, if I'm constantly bad mouthing myself, right, what are our kids going to see?
right.
And, that was something that I really had to become conscious of, really become aware of so that because I want them to treat themselves like they would their best friend. And if I'm not doing that, why would they?
Mm, absolutely. And, also in your writing, you talk about those invisible wounds that live under success. So, what are some invisible wounds that you tend to see most often in high achieving women? And then, how does the real confidence begin to tend to those?
So I'll give my mom as a great example of invisible wounds. So she went to medical school in 1961. She grew up on a farm in rural Pennsylvania. Her mom had a sixth grade education. Her dad worked in the coal mines. And from the time she got into medical school, the men there would tell her that, she took the place of a man she doesn't deserve to be there. I mean, that was like a constant thing that she would hear.
Oof.
She always felt like she would have to prove herself. And, I think a lot of that is still very relevant today.
Yeah.
So, when we're looking at, especially like in the workplace, the things that women have to go through in a different way, like they stick with us. So the fact she's 86 years old and she just told me that story about, men saying that she took a man's place like last month. And I was thinking,
Wow.
it had stuck with you forever, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many things I have forgotten over my lifetime, but they're basic things that I will never forget. Again, the abusive boyfriend, the things I will never forget. There's periods in between of stuff. I don't remember any of that, but it's so important that we, address what we're finding, right? Instead of just saying, oh, well, it happened and it's not a big deal. So for so many women, I mean, we're at probably the lowest level of confidence in the workplace in, I don't know, many, many years. I don't have the exact statistic, but we're also, there was something I saw yesterday that women are being, you know, it's even lower in terms of CEO positions than it has been in a long time. So we're actually going backwards a little bit. And a big part of it is women don't feel like they're getting the support that they need to be able to move up the ranks. And
Yeah.
so those are all invisible wounds that stick with us forever unless we address them. And, I'm a big believer in really talking about what you struggle with so that you can understand it more and you can help other people. I mean, the more you talk about what you struggle with, the more people are willing to talk about what they struggle with. And it's basically like an experience where they're helping you and you're helping them at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all walking each other home, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So, I know a lot of my listeners can conceptually understand boundaries, and you talk a lot about that. But emotionally, they feel like it's selfish or it's
Mhm.
scary. So, how do you help people to set boundaries without drowning in the guilt or the over explaining?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a very simple thing to say. Um, Thank you so much for asking me. It's really an honor. I don't have the capacity to do this right now, but again, thank you for thinking of me. There cannot be any guilt with that because you're really polite, right? And you're saying, I appreciate it. Thank you. Like, I really do appreciate it. I can't do it, right? And so if anybody comes back and says, well, that's ridiculous. Yes, you do. Okay, come into my life and tell me how much time I have in my day. I have my 15 minutes of self-care set aside, but tell me how much time I have. I really don't think people come back. We have this idea in our head that people are going to be so upset with us if we say no to things. And we have to say no to things that don't serve us so that we have the time to say yes to things that really do. And yes, is it scary sometimes? Absolutely. I mean, technology is set in such a way right now that very few people still have phone calls, right? I mean,
Right.
most of it is text messages or emails. Um, I still believe in a phone call because I think that that's how people understand the, inflection of your voice, like your tone, all of those things. But for people that really don't want to go that route, you can do a very nice email that is not going to, you're not going to feel guilty. Like it's easy. You write it, you push the send button. And I
Hmm.
know you're like, oh my gosh, it's not easy. I'm afraid they're going to judge me. I'm afraid they're going to, no, they're not. They're not thinking about you. They asked you for something. If you can't do it, they're going to go ask the next person.
Yeah, it's so true. Was there anything in particular that happened for you that helped you to like stop performing confidence and to start living it more honestly?
So I was at this women's event. It was like an aha moment. And I was performing for so long. And this video came on, Colby Calais' Try.
Mm.
And it's really about peeling back the layers for women. And I literally started crying. And I was not a crier. And my friends were like, what do we do with her? Like, what do we do right now? We have never seen her cry. And I really, told my truth. Like, I was like, this is what I struggle with. These are all the things in my past. This is how I feel right now. And it was amazing because that kind of breath allowed me to think like they're here no matter what, right? They're not going to dump me because all of a sudden I'm me.
Yeah.
They would prefer me to be me, right? They don't want that fake thing. I used to get comments like, "Oh, it's really hard to be around you because you have it all together." And that got me thinking too, because I didn't have it all together. I pretended to have it all together. And so as soon as I dropped that, it was kind of like, yeah, trust me, people will still come to me and say, you know, I need advice. Can you help me with this? Whatever it is. But it's real questions now instead of like, can you just pick up my kids from school? Right. So
Yeah.
it's really that was like a big transformational moment for me and I thought I was the only one that struggled. And so as soon as I talked about my struggles, it was like the whole table opened up.
Hey, quick pause to let you in on something you might not know. You know, you can book a totally free, no pressure 15-minute insight call with me. Yep, just you and me chatting about the real life stuff that's feeling heavy or unclear or stuck in your world right now. Whether that's in your business, your body, your relationships, your energy, all of the above, maybe. We'll explore what's really going on beneath the surface, and I will share a few personalized insights to help you start moving towards the outcomes you truly desire and get out of your own way with clarity, peace, momentum, and abundance. Just go to gamechangingconversation.com and grab a time that works for you. I can't wait to connect with you and hold space for your next breakthrough. All right, let's get back to the episode.
And I always thought their lives were perfect. No, they're not
Mm.
perfect, right? So we have these ideas in our heads that everybody else has it right and we just don't.
Yeah, so true. I love that perspective and that story. And I'm going to have to go listen to Kobe Calais after this because I used to love listening to her way back when. So that'll probably make me cry after the
Yeah.
episode too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your book because it's coming out in February, which is really exciting. This is your second book. And if you want to say anything about the first one, you're welcome to also. But like when a woman finishes the last page
Mm.
of this new book and closes the cover, what do you want to feel different inside of her? Like, what would you like her to
Oh,
experience?
yeah. I really want her to think like, yes, I can do this. Like, whatever your mountain is, whether it's a true mountain or it's the mountain of your life, right? We're all dealing with things that you can conquer it. Like, you can push through and you can do it. And you don't need to wait for someone else to tell you or someone else's approval. You don't need to wait for external validation. You got this right where you are. And so that's my hope is that, and that women, as they read it, they'll say, okay, yeah, I mean, these are the things I'm going to work on because confidence is a practice. And this is what I'm going to work on every single day. Just because I've built confidence doesn't mean that I don't struggle with things. So I still have that
Sure.
voice inside my head.
Yeah.
I
Is there
call her,
anywhere that you're
yeah.
growing your confidence right now? Like we all have that edge, right?
Oh,
Is like what's your
yeah.
current edge?
So, well, this book launch is a big example, and I'll talk about the book in a second. But so I call the voice in my head the what if whisperer, right? The what if you fail? What if they judge you? I've also named her because that way I can like separate her from me. Her name is Sally Fine, freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And that way, anytime something happens, I'm like, oh, that's Sally, just, take a step back. And
Love it.
yeah, thank you. It's, it makes me laugh even when I say it now, and which is a good thing. Like I can laugh about it and not just think like, oh God. So, but what I did was I created a little mindset hack because when, we all spiral in self-doubt, right?
Sure.
So it's very creative. It's called Control Alt Delete. So back in the day, that was how we would reset a frozen computer. Now it
Yes, I
brings up,
remember.
and now it brings up Task Manager. I don't know what that means, but that's what it does. And, but sometimes our minds freeze too, right? We spiral in self doubt. We get stuck in the comparison game. So control is about awareness. And I think that's true of anything we do. The awareness piece is so important, right? So when these thoughts come into your head, are they real? Are they helpful? Most of the time, the answer is no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, awareness is huge. And then alt is about alternative. Tell yourself a better story. Instead of saying I can't, how about I can? Instead of what if I fail, how about when I succeed? I mean, really your words become your reality.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. Delete the comparison game, delete the belief that you're not enough, delete the apology. I mean, how many times do we apologize for things we don't need to apologize for, right? Is it going to make the other person feel better? So it's really about taking those thoughts and saying, okay, control alt delete them. They're not real, right? It's the negative story that we're telling ourselves in the moment. And that's for me, that's a way that I move forward. So
Yes.
that's what I'm doing right now with my book launch, with all the things I have to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're overthinking this. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is my
Let's see
new
it.
book.
Oh, I love the cover. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. Real Confidence, a simple
Beautiful.
guide to go from unsure to unshakable. It comes out February 17th. It's all about my real method, building confidence from the inside out. Lots of exercises and frameworks to really help women move forward.
Nice.
And it's available for pre-order now at realconfidencebook.com. A bunch of
Awesome.
bonuses on there, including a reverse interview with my daughter Olivia. She interviewed me about the book, which was really fun to have her ask all the questions instead of me talking most of the time.
I love that. Does it build on your first book, or are they both completely separate?
They're well, I won't say they're completely separate because the first book is called The Extraordinary Unordinary You. Follow your own path, discover your own journey. So that one is really about the small things that we do in life.
Yeah.
So again, realizing what you're capable of, recognizing that the little things you do every day matter. So often we look at celebrities,
Mhm.
philanthropists, like the people that we think, oh, they're making a difference in the world. And I believe it's the little things we do every day, the way we talk to a stranger, the way we interact with what we call customer service, right? I mean, you can really change someone's life by how you show up, and it doesn't cost you anything. And
So
I
true.
think it's so important that we don't look at other people and say, oh, they have it all together, they're getting it all done. Every choice you make every day makes a difference in the world.
So true. You mentioned that your book has a lot of things that people can kind of do or experiment with to build their confidence. Is there something that you could recommend to listeners that they could try to experiment with their confidence or build that this week?
Yeah. So again, the way you talk to yourself. So if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would tell you I would not do this. But positive affirmations are key in my life. Like every morning when I wake up, I talk to someone that I care, talk to myself like someone I care about. I really do.
Mm.
And so how do I want to set up my day? Do I want to wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, this is going to be the worst possible day ever, and I really suck? Like, really, does anybody want to wake up like that? No, but that's what we do to ourselves. So change the story, right? Tell yourself what you're capable of. I call them mirror moments. I like to use I am statements. I am strong. I am powerful. I am patient. I am loved. I am more than enough. So yes, at first it might feel awkward. For a lot of women, looking in the mirror right into their eyes is very hard to do at first.
Yes, it made me cry a few different
Yeah.
times when I was
Yeah.
first getting used to that kind of stuff. It's very like when looking into anybody's eyes. I know even doing those kind of exercises at retreats and stuff where you just pair up with somebody whose eyes you would not normally stare into for more than a few seconds. It's this gateway, this portal that is just so vulnerable and deep and beautiful. And we can access that with our own selves in the mirror, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, you're talking to yourself. Like, why would you be embarrassed? You're talking to yourself, right? So when I first started doing it, I used my toothbrush as a microphone, like to add some humor to it. So like, yes, it was awkward, but I was like, okay, this is kind of fun too. And
Is that how
now
you also prep for a TED Talk?
sometimes, yeah. Like when I didn't have a real microphone, then I would be like, okay, what can I use? Actually, I had like this pink microphone that the kids had, like this
Ooh,
toy. So that's like when I first started doing stuff, I would walk around the house with the pink microphone. They're like,
I love it.
you look ridiculous. I'm like, yes, I do, and I love it. So, but yeah, I mean, I think tomorrow morning, wake up and say, tell yourself what you're capable of instead of telling yourself that you're not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we believe what we tell ourselves, right? And that's what your reality becomes. So
So true.
start that tomorrow.
Absolutely. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, where can people find you and find more about you if they want to learn more about your book, your coaching, whatever?
Yeah, best place to find me is my website, SimoneKnego.com, SimoneKnego. You can find me on social media, same Simone Knego. And the first book you can find on my website. You can find both books on my website, but if you want to look at the pre-order bonuses for the second book, realconfidencebook.com. And then you can find us on our podcast, Her Unshakable Confidence. And since we're both going to be on each other's podcast, we'll share them together.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing all of your, lived wisdom and all of these great ways you've come to translate it so that women can create and build that confidence so much faster and accelerate the process for all of us. Really appreciate it, Simone.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And for all of you listening, I know you have so many choices when it comes to the podcast you choose. So thank you for listening to Becoming More Me. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.